Seoul is a city of neon miracles and heated benches, but for Min Ji, a 70-year-old cardboard collector, it is a place of relentless cold. She moves through the Christmas Eve crowds like a ghost, her spine curved by the weight of her cart, invisible to the young couples passing by. When a student stops, not to offer pity, but to listen, he uncovers a history buried under layers of dust, a memory of silk, indigo, and a woman who was once a queen in her own life. This is a story about the dignity we carry, even when the world refuses to see it. Welcome to a new episode of the English Plus podcast.
A Scarf of Indigo, a short story from When the Bells Stop Ringing by Danny Balan. The wind off the Han River did not just blow, it sliced. It cut through the layers of Minji's mismatched clothing, the quilted vest found in a donation bin, the two sweaters worn one over the other, the nylon windbreaker that rustled with every step. Minji was 70 years old, and her spine was permanently curved, shaped by the weight of the handcart she pulled behind her. The cart was stacked high with flattened cardboard boxes, secured with fraying bungee cords. To the commuters rushing past her on the riverside path, she was just part of the city's infrastructure, a moving silhouette of brown corrugated paper. She stopped near a cluster of smart benches. Seoul was a city of miracles, she often thought, a city where benches were heated by electricity, offering a free, warm embrace to anyone who sat down. Minji parked her cart carefully, locking the wheels with a stone she kept in her pocket. She sat down, letting out a long, rattling breath as the heat from the seat seeped through her trousers, thawing the ice in her hips. She rubbed her hands together. Her knuckles were swollen, the skin cracked and stained with the gray dust of the city streets. She looked out at the dark water of the Han, reflecting the neon veins of the skyscrapers on the opposite bank. It was Christmas Eve, a fact she knew only because the coffee shops were playing jazz versions of carols, and the young couples walking by were holding hands, their faces illuminated by the glow of smartphones. "Harmony!" Minji didn't look up immediately. People rarely spoke to her unless she was blocking the sidewalk. "Grandmother!" She turned. A young man was standing there. He wore a long, padded coat that looked like a sleeping bag and a university scarf wrapped around his neck. He was holding out a crisp 10,000 won bill. Minji stared at the money. It was enough for a hot meal. It was enough for a pair of warm socks. She stiffened, her chin lifting. "I am not a beggar," she said, her voice raspy but firm. "I work. I have my cart." The boy blinked, surprised. He lowered his hand, embarrassed. I didn't mean to offend. It's just cold." "The cold is free," Minji said, turning back to the river. "Keep your money." Most people would have walked away. They would have shoved the bill back in their pocket, muttered about ungrateful old women, and hurried on to their warm apartments. But this boy didn't leave. He stood there for a moment, shifting his weight, and then, to Minji's surprise, he sat down on the bench next to her. "It is cold," he admitted, pulling his knees up. "My name is Junho." Minji glanced at him sideways. "You should be with your family, Junho, not sitting with a cardboard collector." "My family is in Busan. I'm stuck here for exams." He didn't ask about the cardboard. He didn't ask why she was out on Christmas Eve. Instead, he pointed to the lights reflecting on the water. "The water looks like ink tonight," he said. Minji looked. "No," she corrected softly. "Not ink. Indigo." "Indigo?" "Jokbit," she said, using the old word. "The color of the deep sea. The color of the night sky before the moon rises." She paused, her gloved fingers tracing the shape of her knee. I had a hanbok that color when I was a bride. It was silk, dyed with real indigo. It shimmered like the river does now. She hadn't thought about that dress in years. She remembered how it felt, light, cool, elegant. A stark contrast to the heavy, scratchy layers she wore now. That young woman in the indigo silk felt like a stranger, a character from a story she had once read. "It must have been beautiful," Junho said quietly. "It was," Minji whispered. "I was beautiful once." They sat in silence for a while longer, sharing the warmth of the electric bench. Then Junho checked his watch. He stood up and bowed. "Stay warm, Halmoni." Minji watched him go. She felt a pang of loneliness, sharper than the wind. It was the danger of conversation. It cracked the shell you built around yourself. She waited another 10 minutes, absorbing the last of the heat, before standing up to unlock her cart. She had to get the cardboard to the recycling center before it closed. "Wait!" She turned. It was Junho. He was running back down the path, breathless, his breath pluming in the air. He wasn't holding money this time. He was holding a shopping bag from a nearby department store. He stopped in front of her, his cheeks flushed. "I know you don't want money," he panted, "but you can't refuse a gift. It's bad luck to refuse a gift on Christmas." He reached into the bag and pulled out a scarf. It wasn't a cheap, thin thing. It was thick, soft wool, long enough to wrap around twice. And it wasn't black or gray, the colors of the street. It was indigo. Deep, rich, vibrant indigo. Minji stared at it, her breath caught in her throat. He hadn't just seen an old woman who needed charity. He had listened. He had heard the story of the bride she used to be. Minji started, but her voice failed her. Junho didn't wait for her to argue. He stepped forward and gently looped the scarf around her neck, tucking the ends in so the wind couldn't get through. "It matches your history," he said with a smile. Minji raised a hand to touch the wool. It felt soft against her weathered skin. It felt like dignity. It felt like being remembered. "Thank you," she whispered, and this time she didn't look away. Junho bowed again and turned to leave, walking back into the city lights. Minji stood there for a long time, her hand clutching the indigo wool. She turned back to her cart and gripped the handles. The load was just as heavy as before, and the wind was just as sharp. But as she began to pull, Minji walked with her head a little higher, wrapped in the color of queens.
A prayer for the royal colors. Let us speak now to the ghosts of who we used to be, hovering just above the surface of who we have become. Let us speak to the vibrancy buried under the gray. To the woman pushing the cart who was once a bride in silk. To the man on the corner who was once a father, a builder, a dreamer. To the layers of dust and survival we wear like armor, hiding the indigo, the crimson, the gold that still lives in our memories. We are all museums of our own history, but the world only looks at the peeling paint on the outside and calls it ruin. Let us confess the shallow truth to one another. We are quick to see the need, but slow to see the person. We see the hunger and we offer bread. We see the cold and we offer wool. These are good gifts, yes, but they are gifts for a body, not for a soul. We forget that the person shivering on the bench has a favorite song, a childhood fear, a color that makes their heart ache with nostalgia. We forget that before they were a problem to be solved, they were a protagonist. Let us ask for the grace to listen before we give, to sit on the bench, even when the wind is cutting, and ask the question that matters more than, are you hungry? Let us ask, who were you before the winter came? May we have the humility to realize that our charity is often a way of keeping our distance. We give the coin so we do not have to give our time. We give the blanket so we do not have to feel the chill of their story. But let us strive for a deeper generosity, the generosity of the specific, the generosity of the indigo scarf, the gift that says, I heard you, I saw the bride you were, I see the queen you still are. Let us honor the invisible crowns worn by those the world calls broken. Let us remember that dignity is not something we bestow upon others. It is something we recognize in them. It is already there, waiting for the light to hit it at the right angle. So let us look past the cardboard and the grime. Let us look until we see the shimmer of the deep sea, the flash of the wedding silk, the spark of the life that persists against all odds. May we be the ones who bring the color back. And may we walk away from the encounter not feeling like saviors, but like witnesses to a beauty that was always there, simply waiting to be wrapped in a warmth worthy of its history. You are not what you have lost. You are the color you carry.
When you first immerse yourself in the world of this story, the Indigo Scarf, the immediate impression is one of this really profound, almost aching quiet. It's set during a brutally cold Seoul winter. It's focused on this one path by the Han River, and it centers around what seems like a really insignificant, brief, almost silent encounter.
Right.
But, beneath that simple, stark surface, the story holds just an astonishing depth about what it truly means to be seen.
And that feeling of immediate tension is, well, it's beautifully crafted, isn't it?
It is.
You are instantly assaulted by the environment. You feel that physical reality, that slicing cold. But the narrative, it simultaneously forces you to seek out warmth.
Yeah.
And we realize so quickly that the most important warmth isn't coming from an electric bench or a thick coat, but from this flicker of connection that might pass between two strangers.
Absolutely. The tension is the engine of the whole story. I mean, this could have been a predictable, sentimental little story about simple charity, A kind man gives money to an old woman.
The standard story.
The standard story. But it instantly just transcends that. It becomes this powerful mirror that reflects our own assumptions about need, about poverty, and most importantly, about personal dignity.
We're going to unpack how this small, localized encounter transforms into this huge paradigm-shifting moment.
Yeah.
It forces a redefinition of what generosity truly means, not just for the characters Minji and Jinho, but, crucially, for us as readers.
It really does.
We're going to dissect the difference between simple charity giving generically to meet a visible need and true, almost sacred recognition. So, to really appreciate the power of the Indigo Scarf, I think we first need to fully inhabit the physical world the author creates for Minji. And as you said, that world it's inherently hostile.
Hostile is the perfect word. The story doesn't just, use adjectives like cold or harsh. It uses this incredible sensory language right from the very first line to establish the environment as an active, almost violent entity. The author states, "The wind off the Han River did not just blow, it sliced."
Wow.
Let's just focus on that verb. Sliced. That is personification. It gives the wind a deliberate, cutting, almost surgical intent.
It's an attack.
It is an attack. It conveys a sense of immediate physical danger and pain. The cold isn't an annoyance you just shrug off. It's explicitly framed as an injury you sustain.
It's a masterclass in establishing environmental antagonism. The setting itself is actively trying to defeat Minji.
Yeah.
And we see how that unrelenting hostility has physically scarred her, marked her. She's wearing the standard armor of the street. Mismatched clothing, layers upon layers.
2 sweaters, a windbreaker.
But the cold is so absolute it's still cut through. The physical description of her body is so critical here too, because it tells the story of her labor without just explaining it to us.
That's so right. The language describing her exhaustion, it's visceral. When she stops to rest, we hear her rattling breath. That's the sound of profound, lung-deep exhaustion. Her hands, the tools of her survival, are described as having knuckles swollen, the skin cracked and stained with the gray dust of the city streets.
Just intensely painful imagery.
It is. It communicates a life lived entirely without refuge, completely exposed to the elements, where survival is literally eroding her body.
And this erosion isn't just for a moment, it's structural. Her spine is permanently curved, shaped and resigned to the relentless weight of that handcart.
It's a physical manifestation of the burden.
It is. And even when she finds this momentary high-tech refuge, the heated bench, the language still emphasizes how difficult it is to get any relief. The heat doesn't instantly comfort her. It has to seep through her trousers, slowly thawing the ice in her hips.
She is literally frozen solid.
She is. And even the City of Miracles struggles to reach the core of her cold.
And that phrase, City of Miracles, is where the profound irony of the setting really comes in.
Oh, yeah?
Seoul is presented as this hyper-modern, high-tech hub filled with the neon veins of the skyscrapers and providing free electric warmth through smart benches.
Right. This city offers technological comfort, a heated seat, a miracle of engineering. But it fails completely to offer basic human dignity or recognition to people like Minji.
That juxtaposition is the central critique of this setting, I think. She's sitting on a sophisticated, heated bench, surrounded by busy commuters with their glowing smartphones and stores playing these cheerful, material Christmas carols.
But she's still fundamentally isolated. The technology provides free warmth, but it cannot deliver free dignity.
Which leads directly to the terrible reality of her invisibility, which is just the necessary emotional context for everything that happens next.
How does the world see her? The author is explicit and just brutal about this. The commuters rushing past see her not as a person with a history or a life,
but as just part of the city's infrastructure, a moving silhouette of brown corrugated paper.
Let's just pause on that phrase.
Yeah.
Infrastructure.
It's devastating.
It is a devastating word choice. It strips her of personhood entirely. She is not human. She is a functional object, a piece of urban debris, or at best, a necessary element in the recycling chain.
It's chilling. She is defined by the cardboard she collects, not by the life she has lived. They see a category homeless person, recycler, old woman in need, but they do not see her. The general need is visible, but the individual is not.
And that is the barrier that Junho has to cross. If he sees her only as infrastructure, the story ends with a rejected 10,001 bill.
Exactly. The initial setup is just crucial.
Right.
Relentless physical cold, the backdrop of modern, indifferent splendor, and Minji reduced to a silhouette. Everything is pushing her down, silencing her.
The city has blurred her into the background. And only by interrupting the routine of speed and necessity can that silence be broken.
So the encounter begins when Junho approaches her, and the very first word he uses is immediately important. Harmony. Let's spend a moment on why that linguistic choice matters so much, especially in the context of Korean culture.
Oh, that detail is absolutely vital.
Yeah.
Halmoni means grandmother. It's not just descriptive. It's a deeply respectful term you use to address any elderly woman, whether you're related or not.
Right.
By calling her Halmoni, Junho doesn't approach a generic old woman. He approaches a person of standing. He acknowledges her age and status with deference.
He recognizes her seniority before he recognizes her circumstances.
Precisely, and that sets a profoundly different tone than if he had just said, ma'am, or offered the money silently.
So he opens with respect. He then offers a crisp 10,001 bill, immediate practical relief. The story acknowledges this is enough for a hot meal or warm socks, relief for the body.
And this is the moment where, like, 99% of charity stories in the world would end.
Right. Junho has done his duty. He can walk away feeling good about himself.
But this is where this story truly begins its work. Minji's response isn't just a decline, it's a radical assertion of her entire identity.
Yeah, she stiffens, she lifts her chin, a small but defiant physical gesture, and says, in a voice that's raspy but firm, I am not a beggar. I work. I have my cart.
That line is monumental. It is her manifesto.
It is.
She refuses to be defined by her lack. She defines herself by her action. I work. She owns that small piece of agency, even if that labor is this grinding, physically destructive task of collecting cardboard.
For her, accepting money as charity would mean accepting the label of beggar, which strips her of the hard-won dignity of her labor. It's a self-definition that says, you see poverty, I see production.
And that defiance completely unbalances Junho. The text notes he is surprised, and he lowered his hand, embarrassed.
Why is he embarrassed?
Well, because her refusal exposes his own quick assumption. He was operating on this transactional level, viewing her situation as a pathology to be cured with currency. Her refusal shatters that routine. It forces him to recognize that she is not a category. She is an individual with standards.
The power of this moment is the inversion of expectation. We, the readers, expect her to accept. Junho expects her to accept. Her refusal makes her terrifyingly real.
Yeah.
And her follow-up comment further solidifies her philosophical stance. The cold is free. Keep your money.
That quote, "the cold is free," is one of the most memorable and profound lines in the whole story.
I agree.
She's saying that she accepts the physical hardship of the cold as part of her current reality, the cost of her life right now. But she refuses the assumption of entitlement that comes with unsolicited pity or charity.
She's drawing a clear boundary.
A very clear boundary.
Yeah.
You can give me warmth, but you cannot take my self-respect.
And this is the moment where Junho really separates himself from the generic most people. The story notes that most people would have walked away.
Right. They would have shoved the bill back in their pocket, muttered about ungrateful old women.
The easy defensive out. But Junho persists. And crucially, he changes his mode of persistence.
He chooses presence over purchase.
That's a great way to put it.
He lowers the money, he apologizes for his assumption, and then he makes a different offer. Connection. He sits down next to her, sharing the free warmth of the bench.
This is the pivot.
This is the pivot. He moves from trying to buy her relief to simply offering his company. He engages not with her situation, the visible need, but with her as a person.
He doesn't treat her life as a clinical case study. It's the generosity of shared silence. He doesn't grill her about her life story.
No advice.
No advice. He just offers a shared observation about the environment, a bridge out of their separate, cold realities. The water looks like ink tonight. He offers a mutual moment of aesthetic appreciation.
And that simple comment about the river looking like ink.
Yeah.
That is the key that unlocks Minji's entire internal world.
It is.
It's an attempt at connection through observation, but Minji corrects him, and in doing so, reveals the deep history and the vibrant color she carries within her.
It's a beautifully written exchange. She corrects him so softly, almost intimately. No, not ink. Indigo. And ink is so general, dark, practical, the color of necessity. But indigo is specific, deep, and historical, the color of memory.
And she immediately grounds this color in her heritage, elevating it beyond just a shade of blue. She uses the old word, J-joke bit.
Right.
And this is where the language explanation is vital for understanding the depth of her character. J-joke bit specifically refers to the deep, traditional blue or indigo dye, especially relevant to historical Korean textiles.
So by using that specific term, she's linking the color not just to a fleeting aesthetic choice, but to depth, tradition, and a rich cultural heritage. She defines it for him. The color of the deep sea, the color of the night sky before the moon rises.
That imagery is just sublime. It completely shatters the shell of survival she had built around herself. For the first time, Minji is speaking not as the cardboard collector, but as the curator and historian of her own life.
She's speaking in terms of beauty and memory.
And that revelation leads directly to the core of her hidden identity, her memory of the indigo hanbok she wore as a bride. She might not have thought about that dress for decades.
Right.
But Junho's simple observation about the river provides the linguistic prompt that pulls this beautiful memory forward.
The descriptive words she uses to recall the dress are stunning, especially when you juxtapose them against her present scratchy layers.
Oh, yeah.
She remembers the silk dyed with real indigo and says it shimmered, that it was light, cool, elegant. It's a complete sensory reversal. Her current layers are heavy, scratchy, dusty, and gray.
Her memory is light, cool, elegant, and indigo. The contrast couldn't be starker.
And the young woman in the indigo silk, she says, felt like a stranger, a character from a story she had once read.
And that is the symbolic weight of the color indigo. It represents the vibrant royal history of Minji, the protagonist she once was, submerged beneath the utilitarian moving silhouette she has become.
It's the memory of her inherent original worth, buried under the grime of circumstances.
And Junho, unlike a typical commuter, he understands the sacred significance of her sharing this. He doesn't try to fix it or interrupt, he just validates it. It must have been beautiful.
He confirms that her memory is real and deserves honor. And then Minji whispers that heartbreaking line, the ultimate moment of vulnerability. I was beautiful once. She has risked sharing her true self, her history, with a stranger.
But this vulnerability comes at a painful cost, doesn't it? The conversation, while beautiful, has cracked the protective shell of emotional numbness she had built. After Junho leaves, Minji feels a pang of loneliness, sharper than the wind.
Why is it sharper than the cold?
Because survival requires emotional numbness. Recognition breaks that numbness. She is now exposed not just to the cold, but to the painful memory of everything she has lost. She has shared her beautiful past, and now she is left alone with the echo of it.
That is profound psychological realism. It's often much easier for us to deal with physical colds, a problem you can solve with a blanket, than to deal with deep emotional longing, a problem that can only be solved with recognition.
Exactly. She had armored herself against pity, but she had no defense against genuine, respectful attention. She has given the gift of her story, and now the story demands a response.
Which brings us to the turning point where Junho proves he is not just sensitive, but genuinely wise.
Yes. He learned the critical distinction between the material need, which she refused, and the personal story, which she risked sharing.
Precisely. Minji had already told him to keep his money, so if he had returned with a larger bill or a cheap, generic, mass-produced gray blanket,
She refused it.
she would have, because it would have been a generic gift for a generic category. But he returns with a physical object that speaks directly to her story, not her need.
And he runs back down the path, breathless, which shows that this is an urgent personal mission for him, not some routine chore. The description of the gift is so intentional. It's not a cheap, thin thing. It's thick, soft wool.
Emphasizing quality and genuine concern for her long-term comfort, but the material is secondary.
The color is the entire point.
The scarf is deep, rich, vibrant indigo. It is not merely a warm garment. It is a personalized piece of her history, given back to her in the present. It directly mirrors the J-joke bit she spoke of.
He took her story, her secret, vulnerable memory, and transformed it into something tangible and present.
This specificity is what elevates the gesture from simple charity to profound human connection. It's the generosity of paying attention.
And when Minji sees it, her breath caught in her throat, a powerful physical reaction to an emotional shock. The realization hits her, and this is the story's most critical insight. He hadn't just seen an old woman who needed charity, he had listened.
He had heard the story of the bride she used to be.
Exactly. And this action, looping the scarf around her neck, is literally wrapping her in her own dignity. He doesn't wait for her to argue or protest.
No.
He steps forward and gently performs this small, sacred act of restoration. It's a moment of non-monetary transactional grace.
And he seals it with the perfect line, the one that guarantees the gift will be accepted because it honors her, rather than pitying her. He says it matches your history.
That line is recognition personified. It validates the queen she was, and confirms that the queen she is still exists, hidden beneath the mismatched clothing and the gray dust. It's an act of validation.
The scarf doesn't primarily provide warmth, it provides validation. Minji touches the wool, and the story explicitly tells us what it feels like. It felt like dignity. It felt like being remembered.
This is the highest form of giving. It's the spiritual equivalent of that 10,001 bill she rejected. She refused the generic gift for her body, but she accepted the specific gift for her soul.
And this gift empowers her to face her unrelenting reality. The story's unflinching about this.
It is. The load was just as heavy as before, and the wind was just as sharp.
The scarf did not materially change her circumstances. She is still poor, still cold, still carrying cardboard, but it radically changed her internal state. And that's the true miracle of the story.
The internal shift is massive. She walks with her head a little higher, wrapped, both metaphorically and literally, in the color of queens. The scarf is a visual reminder to herself that she is not just dust and cardboard. She carries history and worth. It allows her to continue her difficult labor, not by denying the hardship, but by strengthening the person who's facing it.
The cold remains, but her capacity to withstand it has been internally reinforced.
And the author ensures that Minji's specific localized experience isn't just a touching anecdote. It is given this massive philosophical extension in A Prayer for the Royal Colors, which elevates the concept of the indigo stars into a universal truth.
This concluding text immediately introduces the profound concept of engaging with the ghosts of who we used to be, hovering just above the surface of who we have become.
Right. This is the universal Minji. We all carry that vibrancy buried under the gray. It forces us to confront the idea that our current circumstances, whether it's hardship, professional stress, or simply exhaustion, are often just the visible, temporary surface layer covering a magnificent original identity.
It speaks directly to the armor of survival we construct. For Minji, it was the quilted vest and the dust. For us, it might be layers of stress, guardedness, professional cynicism.
Or just busyness. These are the layers of dust and survival we wear like armor.
Yeah.
And critically, the prayer notes that these layers hide the indigo, the crimson, the gold that still live within our memories and our history.
And the prayer's critique of how we perceive the world is both poignant and so true. The world only looks at the peeling paint on the outside and calls it ruin. This applies to how we judge strangers, and tragically, often how we judge ourselves when we look in the mirror and only see the accumulated dust.
We focus on the visible decay of circumstance, ignoring the museum of history and memory that's inside every single person.
This structural contrast sets up the crucial theological and philosophical difference between practical charity and spiritual recognition, the concept the prayer calls the generosity of the specific.
Which is the heart of this deep dive.
Let's confess, as the prayer forces us to, the shallow truth. We are quick to see the need, but slow to see the person. We are good at triage. When we see hunger, we offer bread. When we see cold, we offer wool.
And the prayer admits these are necessary good gifts, but they are gifts for a body that often forget the soul.
So why is it so difficult for us to move beyond that transaction?
Well, because recognizing the person requires time, vulnerability, and listening, all of which are costly. Giving money is efficient. Giving attention is demanding.
Right.
We forget that the person shivering has a favorite song, a childhood fear, a color that makes their heart ache with nostalgia. We forget that before they became a generalized recipient of aid, they were a protagonist in their own epic story.
Our giving often remains generic because we haven't bothered to learn the specific story that would tell us what color scarf to buy.
And that brings us to the key question the prayer advocate's asking. The question that Junho essentially asked Minji through his persistence. Who were you before the winter came?
That question is profoundly transformative. It shifts the focus from the immediate crisis, the winter, to the person's lifelong identity. It forces us to move from pity to partnership and remembrance.
And the text doesn't let us off the hook easily. It demands a difficult self-reflection, the humility of giving. The prayer suggests that our charity is often a way of keeping our distance.
We offer a coin to avoid giving our time. We give a blanket to avoid feeling the chill of their story.
We prioritize our own comfort and efficiency over genuine connection, and that efficiency robs the act of its restorative power.
The indigo scarf, therefore, becomes the ultimate physical symbol of this deeper generosity. It's the gift that says, I heard you, I saw the bride you were decades ago, I see the queen you still are today.
The specific nature of the gift, the color, the direct connection to the hanbok memory, is what makes it restorative. It bypasses the need for food or money and goes straight to the essential human need for dignity and validation.
And this is where the text concludes with that incredibly powerful idea of recognizing invisible crowns.
Yes. Dignity, the prayer asserts, is not bestowed upon others. We don't have the power to give someone dignity. They already possess it. It is something we recognize in them.
It's waiting for the light to hit it at the right angle.
And Junho was the light that hit Minji's history at the right angle, allowing her to see her own crown again.
This idea of seeing the queen, the protagonist, the history, makes this story a universal message of humanism and empathy. It's perfectly suited for any time of year focused on giving because it transcends specific faiths and material concerns.
It does. It reminds us that the greatest gift we can offer is often simply listening, seeing, and affirming the inherent worth in every single person, regardless of their current circumstances.
It encourages us to be witnesses to a beauty that was always there, simply waiting to be wrapped in a warmth worthy of its history.
It's a mandate to restore the color, not just patch the gray. It's a call to move from seeing people as broken things that need fixing to seeing them as magnificent objects that have temporarily accumulated dust.
That distinction changes everything. It changes our entire approach to others. It shifts the dynamic from I help you to I honor you.
Exactly. When you honor someone's history, you affirm their capacity for the future.
Yeah.
Minji had the strength to carry the cart when she was affirmed as a person of history and dignity.
So I think the ultimate mandate of this entire deep dive, drawing from both Minji's poignant story and the profound philosophy of the prayer, is this. We must mandate that we listen before we give, and that we actively seek out the specific story hidden behind the general need. We have to resist the urgent transactional urge to see a generic problem to be solved and instead commit to seeing an individual person to be honored.
And the final line of that philosophical text gives us a guiding principle to carry forward every day, a reminder that the circumstances of winter are temporary, but identity is enduring. You are not what you have lost. You are the color you carry.
Minji wasn't defined by the loss of her home or the loss of her youth. She was defined by the deep, rich indigo she remembered, the color that represented her historical worth. So we want to encourage you to carry this thought experiment with you. The next time you interact with someone you perceive primarily through their current situation, whether that's a weary cashier, an overworked service worker, or a stranger whose circumstances are difficult, what is the indigo you might be overlooking?
What is the invisible crown you need to recognize?
How can you move past the generic gift of charity and give the far more profound gift of recognition, the generosity of the specific?
It changes the way you categorize the world, and more importantly, it changes the way you walk through it.
We hope you related to this story. If these moments of quiet connection and hope resonated with you, we're thrilled to tell you that the full collection, When the Bells Don't Ring by Danny Ballin, is now available on Amazon and everywhere books are sold. Danny wrote this book to bring a little light to the quieter, sometimes harder moments of the season. It makes for a truly meaningful Christmas gift for anyone who loves literary fiction and heartwarming tales. You can find the link to buy or gift a copy right now in the description. Thank you for listening and for reading. We'll see you in the next episode. Never stop learning and hoping with English Plus Podcast.